Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and once again, this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Saturday. Hope you're off to a great start with your weekend. That also means it is ERIK Larsen Day, and that is why we are looking at the next issue of his Savage Dragon run. This is the regular series. This is issue number 2, cover dated July 1993, and as you can see from this cover, it is a crossover with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, the Mirage Studios kind of version of the Ninja Turtles. If you don't know about the Ninja Turtles history, they started with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in the mid-'80s as an independent series, really caught on, and eventually became kind of a marketing sensation, really, all across the United States and the world, really. And I kind of glommed onto them early when one of my friends mentioned it to me. At this point, there was no cartoon, but the toys were out, and you can get them only, I think, at Toys R Us. And I'd actually convinced my parents to go there. It was a whole thing, and I was super happy. The first one I got was Raphael. I do remember that. And, you know, a few months later, the animated series was on TV. I was a kid at that time, loved it, obviously. But by the time, you know, I was collecting comics seriously, and I was into Image Comics, I'd kind of grown out of the Ninja Turtles. It'd already been a few years, but it was still kind of fun to see them appear here because I was familiar with them. And again, to see them drawn by different artists. I always enjoyed seeing different interpretations of characters by different artists that I enjoy. So to see ERIK Larsen drawing them was definitely a treat. And this issue, while not being, you know, any kind of, you know, masterful literature, is just kind of a fun romp. And obviously, you know, mistaken identities at first, they're going to square off and then kind of team up when they realize they're not on opposite ends of the law. I mean, officially, since they are vigilantes and he's a cop, but they kind of, you know, team up, and it's your typical kind of crossover. And when I say typical, kind of what was the norm before Image Comics with the mainstream comics crossovers between like Marvel and DC. But ERIK Larsen definitely at Image Comics in those early days is the king of the crossover. Just a few issues ago, we looked at Savage Dragon versus Megaton Man. And yeah, he really does a lot of that. And I think regrets some of it because later on what happens with publishing rights and copyrights and things is sometimes there are issues that you can't reprint. So I don't know if this is one of them, but I don't know what the deal is on reprinting this issue. But for example, I know Savage Dragon number 10 with the create a character contest. The winner in that issue will obviously, when we get to issue 10, which is in a few reviews and 8 reviews, we'll talk about that more in detail. But that character, the copyright is kind of up in air because apparently the guy who created it passed away a few years ago. So technically his family has the copyright. So he's not quite sure how that works. And it's kind of an issue in reprinting that issue, basically, featuring that character. But I'll get into more detail on that when we get to issue 10. We've got issue 2 right in front of us. So let's have a look at that. And again, just a cool looking 90s cover from ERIK Larsen featuring his character and the crossover guest stars the Ninja Turtles. One thing I want to say overall with the art, he's kind of stopped what I really liked from prior issues. He's still doing the splash page on page 1, but has kind of given up on the double page splash on page 2 and 3. Maybe it'll come back. It might. I want to say that generally, I feel like once we get to the regular series, he settles into a slightly more kind of deadline style, slightly more rough inking style. And I think maybe the rough inking it's not horrible. I still enjoyed the series and I still enjoy the art, but I find like this style of inking is usually better served on newsprint paper. And Image was really pushing this glossy paper here. And I don't think it necessarily is advantageous to ERIK Larsen's art. I think it looks a little bit better when there's a bit of absorption by the newsprint, and then it blends things just a little bit with the bleed, the very limited bleed that can happen. Maybe he was saving, I guess, the double page splash for the more interesting moments, so he saved it for a few pages later where, you know, the Ninja Turtles basically just sneak up on the Savage Dragon, always carrying some kind of cool weapon, in this case, some huge Uzi, if I'm not mistaken, some huge machine gun from the cover as well. Great double page splash here, great dramatic lighting. I think ERIK Larsen is a master in most of all the techniques you need as a cartoonist and you know, artists for comic books, and this is a good splash page to show that off. The different textures, the different lighting, the uplighting is super well done. The silhouetting here, everything works, everything's clear. You even get some on the Ninja Turtles back here, right? You can see, and all these interesting kind of rough textures he uses to detail out a building that, to me, really work well. That's just a great looking building. It's just a bunch of rough, fairly straight lines, right? So there we go. Action started. We got Ninja Turtles fighting the Savage Dragon. Just fun, bunch of green characters. The colorist has smartly decided to use two very different hues of greens to separate the turtles from the Savage Dragon. I would surmise to say that, you know, maybe this is more typically colored that you would also use on the Ninja Turtles, but because of that issue here with the Savage Dragon, they've gone with a darker hue. I did forget to mention the credits, so my mistake. Let's do that now. Creator, writer, penciler, inker, Erik Larsen. Letterer, excuse me, or letters, Chris Eliopoulos. And colorists, Steve Oliff and Ruben Rude. Okay. So you got, I love this panel here because it's got so many 90s tropes. Character busting out of the panel, vertical panel, fairly thick border, obviously because of the negative space in this comic being black, just maybe taking a page from the McFarlane book of design, and all these kind of manga-esque action lines in the back here, but just a great panel that shows all of Erik Larsen's strength. His characters are always when they're in action, very kinetic. There's always a lot of great foreshortening coming at you. You know, use of silhouette here is just so smart. And the way he describes the movement of the nunchucks is just, yeah. And even look, for some reason, like, see how the hand up here is almost rougher than the rest and almost closer to kind of the lines he's using here, as if the hand is kind of vibrating a little bit to do that, you know? Like, compared to how he drew this hand. This hand's more detailed, it's more tight, right? The way he's drawn it, and this one's just looser and kind of more kinetic. All of that matters, right? All these little choices just make that image there really awesome. I like the way he draws their feet. Very, I don't know what it is. Like, they're almost like dinosaur feet. Very interesting. Great use of a vertical panel again, storytelling-wise, right? A falling scene makes sense. Just really well done. Throwing in that extra debris really makes it as well, right? Like, just the figures, that would have been great, but the debris. And we can still see those figures really well, so... And how quickly he drew these turtles and the dragon here. This here must have taken a minute. Maybe two. Yeah. Larsen is just great, and he's got a very efficient style. Storytelling is always very clear. So here it gets a little more cinematic, a little more like a screen where we're watching something. The action's kind of died down, right? Proportions are kind of all over the place. I feel like maybe the dragon's legs, he's a bit compressed here. Maybe to fit in this panel. The turtles are maybe a little bit bigger than they should be. But overall, it looks great. And here we have our character that obviously the turtles, now that we've gotten over our differences with the Savage Dragon, we're going to team up and help defeat this gargoyle character. We've got another cool depiction here, which I feel is Larsen purposely reusing the design from the other page on a different turtle. Again, great foreshortening, some silhouetting and stuff. Really works well. When you figure out a good idea, use it and use it again. And now he's kind of, you know, it's not a vertical panel, but he's applying that same principle to, if not all the turtles here, 3 of the 4 turtles, right? Like the rough paneling, sense of dynamism, the twisted, horizon line. And just a cool scene here. Look at that. What a great panel. So much depth, right? One turtle is close. Oh, and he did draw the Mirage Studios version of the turtles with the tail, which sometimes is confused with something else, right? Hilarious. Yeah, the foreground turtle, the background turtles, right? You go 1, 2, 3 planes. Even this character here is creating another plane. You got the dragon down here. Just a great sense of depth in that image, and high above the city action. It is a down shot once again, so commend him on doing that. That's not always easy. And just that extra little bit of detail with the buildings back here, just to give us that evocative environment. Very, very well done. Continuity from the buildings here, right? Some more dynamic action from the dragon himself. Another great panel here. Still, again, the horizon tilted. Makes everything more dynamic. Emphasis lines, speed lines, whatever you want to call those. Kirby crackle here from the emanation of fire, I guess, is what's coming out of his mouth there. Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember back in the day, this continued on into a Ninja Turtles Mirage comic, and I think I have it here somewhere. I'd have to look up, and maybe, hopefully I can talk about it next week. Instead of maybe the Savage Dragon review, just replace it real quick to finish off the storyline. Don't know if I still have that comic, though. I'll have to look for it. And if I do, I will definitely do that. But this was, this character and the storyline with these guys continued on into another issue. I do remember that. Great looking shot of the dragon here, looking cool. Expect no less from Larsen. And yeah, it seems like he's taken that McFarlane page of just using the black in the back for the negative space instead of the white, but not always, because here we get to more kind of traditional comic book layout and a more traditional white space for the page and the negative background. Another great vertical establishing shot, right? I talk about how McFarlane's really good at cropping and just giving us the essential information that we need for that vertical shot to make sense, and that's what Larsen's given us here. Once again, great trees. I've mentioned Larsen's trees. The way he does it, I find, is just so smart and clever and quick, and just the way he builds those layers here for this farmland. You've got in the foreground grass, then you've got the wheel, then you've got the house, then you've got the fence, then you got a tree here, you got another tree here. I did mention the house, right? And then you've got the clouds. So you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different planes in just this simple kind of, it's all about how you lay things out. And that's how that ends. And again, the Image guys, known for being a little bit more gruesome in their Image stuff, not Comics Code approved, so you can do some crazier, more horror stuff, more gore. Savage Dragon definitely known for blood. Like, this is nothing for the Savage Dragon, right? But hinting at something obviously pretty creepy going on there in the house. Possibly, I would assume that's the door to the basement. So there you go. There's this is the issue in question that I will look for and see if I still have. And I'll review it if I do, and if I don't, well, we'll move on to the next issue, Savage Dragon. We've got some cool pinups in here. I'm not always sure who drew them. This is pretty cool. Fairly Kirby-esque, I would say. These designs in the back here, these giant robots. Rick Leonardi, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. And then there was a quick Star story. And if I remember correctly, ERIK Larsen mentioned about how someone had written in about Star and had said with the hair and stuff he was sexy or hot or something, and he really didn't like that. So basically the storyline here, this quick little short story, is just so that Star can lose his hair. This character is a fire character, obviously, lights it on fire, loses it, and that's basically the whole story. So the whole point of the story is for Star to lose that long hair that gets described as either sexy or hot. I don't remember. This is always thought it was a cool pin-up of the dragon. Just don't know who the artist is. I don't know if there's any credits for these anywhere in this comic, but these are all very cool. I feel like it's all the same artist here, and these two here, and I would assume these two as well. It's almost like it's Brian Steelfreeze. I don't know for sure. Cully Hamner, one of the guys from that studio. And just real quick, the rest of the issue is a flip book, Vanguard number 0. So he's bringing back Vanguard, a character he worked on in the earlier 80s, I guess is how I'll put it. And we get a quick preview here. Not anything I was really into originally, but eventually with Vanguard, what happened is every issue would have a kind of an interesting or cool artist. I know Joe Madureira did an issue, and some other interests of note, artists of note, excuse me. I just can't remember their names right now. So I did buy a few of those issues with those artists that I was interested in, basically. I mean, not that this guy here is horrible, Tom Cocker. There's just, I feel like there's just different levels of drawing and sometimes inconsistency. Like this shot here feels photo reference, but for an alien, right? So there's just some uncanny valley weirdness, I guess. And the face, the angle doesn't quite jive with the model that's been established with Vanguard. Just my particular tastes. And there you go. Oh, you got Supreme showing up. Rob Liefeld's Superman, right? So there you have it. That is my quick review of Savage Dragon number 2 featuring the Ninja Turtles. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so. If you enjoy the content, it really helps out the channel, helps get us out there to other people who might be interested in this kind of stuff. If you're already subscribed, thank you. I really appreciate your support. Thank you everyone out there for checking out the videos, and I hope you have an awesome day. Like,
Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.